The king, his face a mask of sorrow, stood before his son, his voice barely above a whisper. "You leave me with no choice," he said quietly. "Amaka must be sent away, far from Henri. This is the only way to protect you, to protect us all." In the days that followed, Obi was confined to his chambers, tormented by his inability to protect Amaka. The walls of his room, once a sanctuary, now felt like a prison. The air thick with the scent of incense and the sound of his own despair. His thoughts were consumed by her. Her smile, her voice, the touch of her hand. His heart ached with the knowledge that their love, though powerful, was not enough to change their faith. But faith had not fully turned its back on them. Princess Adora, moved by Obi's anguish and her own sense of justice, went to Ezenamdi. She found him in the palace shrine, where the flickering flames of oil lamp cast long shadows on the walls. The air was heavy with the scent of burning herbs, the room filled with the whispers of the ancestors. "Your Majesty," she began, her voice steady and full of conviction. "Amaka's only crime is that she loved your son. I ask you to show mercy. For our people will not respect a king who rules with cruelty. A kingdom built on fear cannot stand." Ezenamdi listened to Adora's words, the weight of leadership pressing heavily on him. The flames flickered, casting uncertain light on his face, reflecting the inner turmoil of a king who had to balance love with duty. After a long silence, he nodded, his decision made. "Amaka will be spared," he said, his voice filled with the gravity of the choice he was making. "But she must leave Henri and never return." When Obi heard of his father's decision, a spark of hope reignited within him. He rushed to the palace dungeons where Amaka was being held. The stone walls were cold and damp, the air thick with the smell of mildew and despair. The heavy wooden door cracked open, revealing her weary form huddled in the corner of the dimly lit cell. Her clothes were tattered, and her once vibrant eyes were dull with exhaustion. But when she saw Obi standing in the doorway, a flicker of hope returned to her gaze. "You are free," Obi whispered, rushing to her side and pulling her into his arms. "But you must leave Henri. I cannot go with you, but I will ensure that you are safe." Amaka looked up at him, her eyes brimming with tears that threatened to spill over. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "I will go, but know that my heart will always be with you, no matter where I am," she said softly, each word a struggle against the heartache she felt. Obi nodded, his own emotions threatening to overwhelm him. "I will never forget you, Amaka," he whispered, his voice breaking with the weight of the moment. "You are my true love, and you always will be." With the help of Adora, Obi arranged for Amaka to be taken to a distant village far beyond the reach of Nru's influence. The village, nestled in the heart of a dense forest, was a place where she could start anew, where the past could be left behind. As she left the palace under the cover of darkness, the cool night air carried the scent of damp earth and the distant cold of nocturnal creatures. Obi watched her departure from a hidden vantage point, his heart heavy with the knowledge that he might never see her again. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Life in the kingdom of Nru returned to a semblance of normalcy. But for Obi, the loss of Amaka was a wound that refused to heal. He threw himself into his royal duties, seeking distraction in the affairs of the kingdom. The people of Nru admired his dedication and wisdom, but those closest to him could see the sorrow that lingered behind his eyes like a shadow that could not be dispelled. Adora, who had become not just his queen but his confidant, stood by his side through it all. Though their marriage was one of duty rather than passion, a deep respect and affection grew between them. Adora understood the sacrifice Obi had made, and she honored it by supporting him in every way she could. She ruled alongside him with grace and intelligence, her presence a steadying force in his life. Years passed, and Obi ascended to the throne as Eze Obinna. Under his rule, the kingdom of Nru flourished. He was a king who ruled with compassion and fairness, guided by the lessons he had learned from his love for Amaka. The people of Nru respected and revered him, not just for his strength, but for his humanity. He became known as a just ruler, one who understood that true power lay not in domination, but in the ability to lead with empathy. But despite the peace and prosperity that Eze Obinna brought to Nru, the memory of Amaka never faded from his heart. On quiet nights, when the palace was still and the moon cast its silvery light over the land, Obi would walk through the gardens where they had first met. The Udala tree, now tall and strong, stood as a silent witness to their love. He would sit beneath its branches, the scent of the blossom filling the air, and close his eyes, imagining Amaka's voice in the rustling leaves. Though he had lost her, Obi found solace in the knowledge that Amaka was safe, living her life far from the reach of those who would harm her. He often thought of her, wondering if she was happy, if she had found peace. He knew that she had carried a piece of his heart with her when she left, and in return she had left him with the strength to become the king his people needed. In the twilight of his reign, as Eze Obinna's hair turned silver and the lines of time marked his face, he found a sense of peace. His love for Amaka had shaped him in ways he could never have imagined, making him a better man and a wiser king. Though their paths had diverged, their love had left a lasting legacy. A legacy of compassion, of understanding, and of knowledge that true strength lies not in holding on to power, but in knowing when to let go. As the years passed, the story of Eze Obinna and slave girl Amaka became a cherished tale among the people of Nru. A story of love, sacrifice, and the enduring power of the human spirit. And in the hearts of those who heard it, the Udala tree continued to stand, a symbol of a love that had once defied the boundaries of class and convention, a love that, though forbidden, had changed the kingdom forever.